Which brings me to today's message. What do you share on your last Sunday? What do you share? And so I just thought it might be fitting and right for us to look at and assess the journey we started at the beginning of last year. We talked about starting a discipleship journey. A discipleship journey that was started with the theme, come follow me. And we knew that it was not just a year thing. We knew that it wasn't just going to be a 2-year thing. We believe it's a transformation that was needed and required, not only in our church, but in the church. And I thought it might be good today just to sit back, relax, and ask ourselves this question: how is it going? And more importantly, how are we going in that journey? And how do we measure it? Because you can't monitor what you don't measure. I'm a great believer in measuring progress. Otherwise, all we have is thoughts and feelings and words. But measurements help us monitor how we're going. I can tell you this week that I have done over 16,000 steps every day. Do you know why I know that? It's not a guess. It's not because I feel like I did a lot of walking. It's not because I'm telling you that I did a lot of walking. It's because my watch tells me. In actual fact, over the whole last year, 365 days, I have averaged over 15,000 steps every day. It's measured. It's not just a thought. It's not just a theory. It's not just a feeling. It's measurable. You can't monitor what you don't measure. I can tell you what I ate over the last week. I can tell you how many calories I've consumed. I've consumed 2,000 calories every day for the last 7 days, which is broken up into 40% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and 20% fats. I might be a little bit OCD, but I do believe in measuring. Why? Because what you don't measure, you can't monitor. And if you can't monitor it, all you've got is your feelings, and everyone's got feelings. And feelings can be good, but they can be really bad indicators of how you're actually doing. So I had a great week. Did you really? I can tell you, not only did I read my Bible every day this week, but I've got something journaled every day this week that I can highlight what God was speaking to me about. In actual fact, if you look at my last 365 days, there's a journal every 365 days of the last 12 months. It's not just a feeling, it's not just a thought, it's not just a theory, it's measurable. I like measuring things because without measuring things, you can't monitor how you're going. So we're going to measure today, how are we going in our journey called discipleship. Does that sound good? And when I read Paul's writings, now Paul is an incredible man of God, wrote much of the New Testament, and for him, measuring discipleship came down to 3 things. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13, real easy to remember. He says this: and now these 3 remain. Faith, everyone say faith. Hope. And love. But then he thinks, I'm going to get down to 1. And he says, but the greatest of these last 3 are great, but the greatest of the great, the best of the best, the best measuring tool that you can ever have to monitor how your discipleship journey is going comes down to 1 word: love. Turn to the person next to you and say, love. See, I firmly believe with all of my heart, and it's the journey I've been on ever since I've been a believer. It's the journey we've been on ever since we planted this church, is to grow in love. Because I believe the litmus test of spiritual formation is love. How do you measure spiritual formation? How do you measure your discipleship? How do you measure spiritual growth? I believe it comes down to 1 word. I've said it many times before. I like to take the complex and make it simple. I cannot make it any simpler for you. It comes down to 1 word.
That's good.
And that is love. Everyone say love? Love. So the title of my message today is a question, and it's simply this: how's your love life? Hey, how you doing? That's what that meant. How's your love life? And before we can answer, look at that. I was going, look at the young girls giggling. I was like, no, but Paul O'Neill's there giggling. Classic. Before we can answer this question, with all due respect, we must first know what love is.
Yeah, it's good.
You can't answer the question if you have a wrong understanding of what love is. And sadly, I believe many people today, including Christians, are confused about the word love. In particular, what it means in a biblical sense. You see, the ancient Greeks were very forensic in the way they talked about love, which is interesting to note that the New Testament was originally written in Greek. The Greeks had several words for love. And for them to say love is love would be very, very naive at best, incredibly erroneous at worst. You would never hear the ancient Greeks say love is love, because it's just very naive to think that that's the case. They would be horrified to know that we use the same word love to whisper, I love you, over a candlelit dinner. And the same word to sign off on an email saying, much love. They would be horrified to think, what do you mean? Those are two completely different things. But we have the same word for both. I can whisper, I love you to my wife and sign off to Dan, love you, and it's the same? Ugh. Sorry, Dan, just a little bit of sick came up. Sorry. It's my last Sunday. I'm going anyway. It's much like today's coffee culture that has a sophisticated vocabulary for coffee. Just like the Greeks, a barista today would be horrified if you went and asked for a coffee. He would look at you, confused and shocked. Because every good barista knows that coffee is not coffee. You can't just say coffee's coffee. So, no, it's not. He would want to know, what do you mean by coffee? Can you elaborate on what kind of coffee? What type of coffee? Do you want a cappuccino? Do you want a latte? Do you want a double shot flat white? Do you want a macchiato? Do you want a long black? Do you want an espresso? Or are you a diva like someone in our church who likes a little espresso with a bit of honey? It's all coffee, but there's so many varieties and variations. Yeah. But can we all agree on one thing? That Nescafe is not coffee. Can we agree on that? There are some heresies out there, and Nescafe is one of them. I say all that to say this. If the art of coffee deserves its own sophisticated vocabulary, then why not the art of love? Ephesians chapter 3, verse 17. Sorry, I don't have it on the screen. Verse 17 says this, and I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all of the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide, how long, how high, how deep is the love of Christ. I want to put a challenge to everyone in this room, including myself today. Whatever your understanding of love is, it can grow. It can go higher, wider, deeper, longer. Such is the nature of the subject matter. See, the Greeks had 6 particular words to describe love. And so what are they? And how can they inspire us to move beyond our current addiction to romance, an often erroneous version of love? Today, in my short time, I want to hopefully provide some information, some motivation, and some application to improve our love life. So let's look at these 6 words quickly. The first one is eros. Eros speaks of a sexual passion, and it was named after the Greek god of fertility. And it represented the idea of sexual passion and desire. And the Greeks didn't always think of this thing as something positive. Eros involved a loss of control, and it frightened the Greeks. It was viewed as something that was hot, heavy, and often hard to handle. And many contemporaries would agree with that, including C.S. Lewis. But can I say this and remind us, as dangerous as eros love can be, God created sex and sexual intimacy. Can I get an amen on a Sunday morning? It was God's desire. And just like a fire in a fireplace can warm a whole home, that same fire outside of the fireplace can burn it down. And so sex and sexual intimacy is never the problem. It's what we do with it and where we do it and who we do it with and all those things. That's where the complication gets in. But eros, sexual passion, is a good idea, and it's a God idea. And because of some of the travesty surrounding this subject, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This was the first expression of love. The second one was philia, which is about deep friendship. It speaks of a deep camaraderie that was developed on the battlefield. And it's about showing loyalty to your friends. It's about sacrificing for them, as well as sharing your emotions with them. A good word in Australia would be mateship. Have you got any good mates? It's about a deep friendship. It's not superficial. It's not surface level. It's something that goes much deeper than that. It's a special bond that is forged between a parent and a child. Or can I say now, a grandparent and a grandchild. Very excited about that, which is so cool. Get to be grandparents, which is just amazing. But all of this is a far cry from the word friend that we are used to in the social media world, where we have followers and friends, and we pride ourselves on having more followers and more friends with zero depth and zero reality. I think it'd be fair to say we need a little bit more philia in our life. Maybe less followers, maybe less social media friends, but something that's deep, with an emotional connection and a deep, deep reality. Love is not just love. It's much deeper than that. The third one is ludus, which is a playful love. A playful love, speaking of the affection between children or young lovers. I shouldn't say this, most of us have had that taste of that flirting, playful love between a man and a woman, and just or kids growing up. I remember as a kid growing up, I'd run over the road and knock on the door and ask if my friends are playing, and we just play all day, and you'd go on your bike and you wouldn't come back until the sun went down. The home time was when the street light come on, you come home. It's a different world back then. Amazing, playing with the dinosaurs. It was amazing. It was just really good. But it speaks of something that is playful. It's kind of the playful banter you might have around the dinner table with your family. And I love this. I love this. Just that playful banter you have around the dinner table. It's about going out, dancing, and just having good old-fashioned fun. And sadly, as we get older, that gets frowned upon. You join a church and that can be frowned upon even more. And can I encourage you to not allow ludus to die in your relationships? I tell all of our young people getting married, never come off your honeymoon. Kath and I got married over 30 years ago, and we've just stayed on our honeymoon. Because why get old and become like so many people? Why not have some playful love in your life? That's the third one. The fourth one is agape. And this is God's love. This is a love that's for everyone. And this is the most radical version of love. It's a selfless love. It's a love that's extended to all people, family, friends, and strangers. C.S. Lewis referred to it as the highest form of Christian love. Sadly, agape is in radical decline. Empathy is on the decline. Reaching out to people beyond our own is on the decline. Unforgiveness is on the rise. Bitterness, hurt, betrayal is growing. And I dare say all these things are happening because of a lack of agape, a lack of God's love. And we are in urgent need of more agape, not only in the world, but can I say and be honest, in the church? This love that knows no limit. This love that Jesus displayed on the cross when he was beaten, battered, broken, and bruised, and people were mocking him on the cross. And he says, Father, forgive them. Because they don't know what they're doing. That's not natural. That's not normal. That's not status quo. That's agape. That's a love that you and I struggle with. But it's a love that you and I are heading towards in our journey called discipleship and spiritual formation. The fifth one is pragma, which is a long-standing love. Pragma is a mature love. It's a deep understanding that's developed between long married couples. It's about making compromises in order to help the relation work, not just for a week, a month, or a year, but year after year after year after year. And Kath and I have been on this journey together in our relationship for 40 years this year. On March 17, we celebrate 40 years. I met her at a roller skating rink and I asked her to go out with me, and we've been together ever since. March 14, just around the corner, baby. And I got to be honest with you, I love her more now than ever before. I love that I know her so well, but I love that I'm still getting to know her. Just when I think I know her, there's this other side to her. I mean, these guys that jump from woman to woman to woman, I'm saying just hang around the same woman, you'll get a different woman each night. Seriously. What worked last night doesn't necessarily work tonight. And it's just fun. It's just an adventure. It's like, wow, just when I thought I was just this incredible lover, just when I thought I was this incredible husband, just when I thought I was this incredible leader, bum, bum, like, she's back to the drawing board. I just got to study that one a little bit more. Love it. We have never been bored in our marriage, I can promise you that. Because we're just learning all the time. And all you young married couples, it gets better. It really does. I know there's a lot of examples that would suggest the otherwise, but I'm here to be loud and proud about it gets better when there's pragma involved. Psychoanalyst Richard Fromm said this, that we expect too much energy on falling in love, and we need to learn more how to stand in love. Pragma is about standing in love, making an effort to give rather than just receive. How can we give to our wife today? How can we give to our husband today? How can we give to our kids today? How can we give to our friends today? This is not just a marriage seminar this morning. This is how can we love each other more? How can our spiritual formation go to another level? The last one is Felicia, which is a love of self. And this one has two sides to it. There is a healthy side and there's an unhealthy side to self-love. The unhealthy side is associated with narcissism, where we become very self-obsessed and focus on personal fame and fortune. Did I mention Instagram? I don't know. And it's all about us, and it's all about fame, and it's all about numbers, it's all about followers, it's all about this, it's all about me. That's the unhealthy version of it. But there is a healthy version of self-love. And I believe this healthier version enhances our wider capacity to love. The idea that is, if you love yourself and you feel secure in yourself, you have plenty more to give and love others. If you don't love yourself, it's going to be hard to love others. That's the premise behind the Greeks' thinking. Aristotle said it this way: all friendly feelings for others are an extension of a man's feelings for himself. The second commandment is love others as you would love yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you love others? But if you love yourself too much and become narcissistic, then you're not going to love others. But you do have to love yourself. I preached a message many, many years ago called "You Can't Love Others Until You Think the World of Yourself." And I stand by that. We need to have a healthy version of self-love. All this is a far cry from just love being one word. Love is very naive at best. It's much bigger, wider, deeper, and longer than that. So practically, how do we move toward this? I want us to remember 3 things this morning. And then I want to do something, and then we're going to worship together. How does that sound? The 3 things to remember when it comes to love is this. Number 1, that love is a choice. In other words, you have to choose it. Love, in my understanding, is often seen as something that just happens. It's something that just happens to you. Even the language you use doesn't help. It's like, how many of you ever said this? I fell in love. As if somehow you couldn't help yourself. As if somehow love is just like this ditch. I just fell into it. As if you had no say in it. That is simply not true. Love is a choice. Attraction might be uncontrollable. Arousal might be uncontrollable. And those 2 things can lead to love. But those things in and of themselves are not love. Love is a choice. And it represents a commitment. Colossians chapter 3 verse 14 says it this way: and of all of these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. If you want to be a better lover, you've got to put it on. You've got to choose it every day. On the good days, the bad days, the ugly days, you've got to make a choice. Kath and I have had a lot of good days, had a few bad days, and we've had a handful of ugly days. But each time we come back to this notion to put on love. We don't fight for a win, we fight for resolution. And a resolution always lands in, I love you. And I've seen too many marriages, too many relationships break down because we hold on to the details of what happened instead of the meaning. And can I say this? Meaning trumps detail. And Kath and I want to make sure that every one of our disagreements, every one of our misunderstandings lands with meaning. And for me, the meaning of us getting married was that we love each other. We come back to that. It has to land there. And we place all the detail. She said this, he did that, I didn't like this. That's all detail. It's true. But you've got to weigh up truth with the greater truth. And I'll be honest with you, I've done some things that annoy my wife. I have some habits still that I'm working on that annoy my wife. But she's still with me and she's never threatened divorce for one reason, because she loves me. Apparently, I'm lovable. And likewise, there's things that Kath has done, and it can get under my skin. But if I focus on that and let go of meaning, it's the end. But we come back to, but I love her. It's a choice. And you have a choice. Are you going to focus on the detail, or are you going to focus on the meaning? Are you going to focus on the detail, what they said, what they did, how you felt? Or are we going to go back to what matters? This is Christianity. You don't think that Jesus on the cross wasn't hurting? You don't think he felt abandoned and alone? My God, why have you forsaken me? Yet, not my will. Choice. Jesus endured the shame, the blame, and the pain of the cross. Why? Because he made a choice to see beyond it and look into the future and see me and see you in this room today on our new chairs. He saw it. And so he endured it all. Because that's just detail. And he went back to his meaning, his purpose for why he was there in the first place. Someone said, if you're the Son of God, why didn't you come down off the cross and save yourself? Which he could have. But had he saved himself, he could never have saved me or you. And so he chose to save us, not himself. That's love. And love always makes a choice. It doesn't just happen. This romantic notion that it'll just happen is not accurate. Love is a choice. Secondly, love is an action. You have to implement it. In other words, love is what love does. 1 John chapter 3 verse 18 says, "Dear children, do not merely say that you love each other. Let us show it, the truth, by our actions." See, what I know about giving and loving is this. You can give someone something, but not love them. That is possible. We see that at Christmas all the time. Plenty of people give gifts at Christmas, but don't love each other. But I would say this, you can't love and not give. You can give but not love, but you can't love and not give. Pastor Dan just referenced giving in a financial sense just a moment ago. I really believe with all of my heart that if you really love Jesus and are grateful for all he's done, you cannot but give financially, of your time, of your talents. It's just impossible. When you truly love, it's impossible. I don't care if you don't call it tithing. You call it what you want. If you don't believe in tithing, cool, but still give. I will never argue the point. If someone doesn't want to call it tithing, I do, but if you don't, that's fine, but it should equal giving. Because we love. I'm a firm believer that in the family we have jobs to do because we want to give to our family. And to quote Mama Bear over here, if you want to get my wife really riled up, and now kids know this firsthand, when the kids start taking the family for granted, when familiarity creeps in, Mama Bear steps in. He says, don't give your family sloppy seconds. She said that 1,000 times. It scares me, it terrifies me even thinking about it. And so doing the dishes, putting the bin out. I promise you, fellas, you sitting on the couch just watching the television is not going to make for a great lover. It's going to make for a lot of arguments. It's an action. And the best way to love on others is to know your husband, wife, kids so well that you know their love language. And don't love them according to the way you want to be loved, but love them according to the way They want to be loved. And so if you are like me and have an acts of service wife, or you have an acts of service husband, serve them. Serve them. If you have a gifts person in your world, give them gifts. And there's many ways of doing gifts without spending a lot of money. If you have a words of affirmation person, speak, talk, text, write, email, words. But give. It's an action. And my third point and final point is love is a fruit. In other words, you have to grow it. I say love is a fruit because love is a fruit of the Spirit. Galatians 5, it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. The Spirit produces, it's a produce. It produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, self-control. They are fruit. There's also 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit. This is what I know about gifts. Gifts are something that's given. Gift of prophecy, given. Fruit not given. Fruit's grown. I believe one of the biggest problems in the church is where we have high levels of gifting but low levels of fruit. And when you have high gifting and low fruit, you get arrogance, you get self-centeredness, you get I'm better than you, you get our church is bigger than your church. Because for a prophet to truly operate in his God gift, it needs to be coupled with the fruit. The only effective prophet is a humble prophet, a loving prophet, a self-controlled prophet. But if you don't, we're going to get breakdown and fallout time and time and time again. Imagine if we could have all the gifting and all the fruit. But fruit is grown, it's not given. And I've seen many people, highly gifted people, tormented with their high-level gift but their low-level fruit. And it torments them because they haven't been on a discipleship journey. And we have an opportunity to turn that around and begin to produce fruit. Philippians chapter 1 verse 9 says, I pray that your love will overflow more and more, and that you will keep growing in the knowledge and in understanding. See, the thing about fruit is this. It's grown, not made. Who likes fruit? I mean, particularly summer fruit. We've just got some grapes in the fridge right now. I just can't wait to get home to eat my grapes. It's just amazing. But none of them were made. I've never eaten a piece of fruit that was made, ever. It was grown. And it grew by being attached to a life source. The grapes grew on a vine. The apple grew on a tree. Every piece of fruit grew by being attached to a life source. If love is a fruit, and it is, we cannot make it. I've never seen an apple who's like, I'm going to be an apple, I'm going to be an apple, I'm going to... This message is not, I'm going to be a better love, I'm going to be a better love, I'm going to be... No, that's not, we're not going to get there. You just get constipated, that's all you'll do. But if we stay attached to the vine, the life source, the God of love, and we allow his love to flow through us, I believe we'll begin to see the fruit. We'll find ourselves loving more. We'll be more self-controlled, more patient. We'll find ourselves being kinder. Because for fruit to grow, it needs the touch of God. Those grapes that I get to enjoy today, it's because of a touch of God. I'm grateful to God for many reasons, but to have grapes, wow. And I've got some bananas waiting for me. Amazing. I like my apples. God didn't have to do any of that, but just touch of God. And for us to produce fruit, we need the touch of God. This is not a try harder message. This is a trust more, surrender more message. You can't try harder to be more patient. That's a mess. But you can surrender and say, Lord, I'm not patient. But you are. You're incredibly patient with me. And I surrender my impatience today. That I might become more like you. That I might be more spiritually formed into your image on this discipleship journey. And little by little, slowly but surely, through making good choices, implementing the right actions, and surrendering to the life source, we can become better lovers. And who knows, maybe our stale marriages can become more passionate again. Kath and I are going on a long deserved break. Part of that's going to be through Europe, on the Greek Isles, on a cruise. And I promise you this, we won't just be talking. As we begin to implement this more and more and more. Maybe some of you are just so goal-orientated, so driven, success. You've just lost all the fun, spontaneity, playfulness. Come on. Whatever it is, let's make that shift. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love verse, the one we hear at every wedding, says this: if I speak in tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong and clanging cymbal. What's it talking about? It's about gift. If I have a gift but no love, it's nothing. If I have the gift of prophecy, there it is again. If I have another gift, we don't need more gifts. The lack of gifts is not our problem. It's a lack of fruit. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith, another gift that can move mountains but have not love, I am nothing. If I can win every argument with my wife but have not love, I'm an idiot. If I give all I possess to the poor, another gift, and surrender my body to the flames, another gift, but have not love, I gain nothing. So what is love? How do we measure it? How do we measure our 16,000 steps? Here it is. Love is patient. It's kind. Doesn't envy. If you're getting a little bit convicted now, it's okay. Does not boast. It's not proud. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Wow. Some of you are so upset with that man who left you, that woman that left you, that thing that happened to you. You don't realize you're just as guilty because of what you're holding on to. We're all a work in progress, aren't we? Love is patient. It's kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It's not proud. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. How many of us just can't wait to hear bad news? We love it. Love doesn't delight in that stuff. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. Love never fails. Where there are prophecies, they'll cease. Where there are tongues, they'll be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. Where there are gifts, where there's fruit, it'll last forever. We won't have prophecy in heaven, but we will have love. We won't have the gifts, we'll have fruit. I say all of this, one, because Kath and I are about to go away, but we are in a season of change and transition. And change and transition are different. Change is situational. We had a situational change 2 weeks ago when we announced a leadership change. That change has happened. It's done. It's situational. It's finished. The change has happened. But change is never the problem. It's the transition. Change is situational. Transition is psychological. And that's what messes with us. And we have to make a shift mentally. We have to make a shift emotionally in order to embrace the change that's happened. It's much like a man who gets married. He may have changed his address. He may have changed his marital status. She may have changed her last name. That's a change. But thinking like a married woman, thinking like a married man, that's the transition. And many people never make that change. And so the marriage never stood a chance. Change is one thing, transition is another. And we are in a season of transition and will be for weeks and possibly even months to come. Some longer than others. And I say that not to scare us, but to prepare us so you know what it is. So when you feel things, you think things, you see things. Know that we are in a season of transition and we need to respond in love. Not with judgment, not with pointing a finger, but with love.